So hello everyone, my name is Ira Понедельник, I'm from n-ost, and we continue our series of autumn webinars. In November, of course, everybody into COP30 and what is going on in climate conference. Agriculture is one of the main topic again, and today we have webinar about telling story of agriculture. We're going to talk about data, challenges and opportunities in Central Asia. And we have our speakers from Department of External Environment for Agriculture and Policy Analysis from Leibniz Institute of Agriculture Development in Transitional Economies, Dr. Nodir Djanibekov and Dr. Abdusame Tadjiev, and they will share with you information about projects they have. We decided that we will have question answer after the different sections that they are going to tell you and represent to you, and of course in the end. So if you have any questions, just type in the chat, or I will also ask you to raise a hand and give the floor to Nadir.
Thank you, Ira. Yes, welcome to this. I hope, for me, it's the first time this kind of presentation, and I hope it will be useful also for the audience here and those who will be watching this video later on. So yeah, as Irina present myself, Nodir Djanibekov. I'm originally from Uzbekistan, and since 2012, I'm working here as a researcher at Leibniz Institute for Agricultural Development in Transition Economies. I will introduce the institute later on. Yeah, myself, I focus on agricultural policies in Central Asia, lead research group on rural community resilience. We work also on the topics of technology adoption, farm investments, and general agricultural policies. For me, Central Asia, it's because I'm originally from the region, but I also believe that this region represents very interesting lab for different policy experiments, because each government took different trajectories after this independence since 1991. And it's very non-linear approaches, different governance models. So I find Central Asia agricultural issues quite interesting also to develop career. Yes, I give the floor to Abdusame, my colleague.
Thank you, Nodir. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Ira, for organizing such a webinar. So I will tell about myself. Currently, I am working in IAMO as a research associate. And before joining IAMO, my background is agriculture economics. I studied in Samarkand Agriculture Institute, a bachelor and master degree. I'm originally from Samarkand in Uzbekistan. And after that, I continued as a PhD student since 2019. I joined IAMO as a PhD student, and last year I successfully defended my PhD here in Martin Newton University in Halle in Germany. And since last year, I am continuing as a research associate in IAMO in Agriculture Policy Department. My research focusing on mainly to adoption of sustainable agriculture practices in Central Asia. So the agriculture is not, new for me. My childhood is related to agriculture because I live in a village, and during my school time, I also produce some agriculture. I have some experience to also, not only research, but also in experience to produce agricultural crops, etc. So yeah, I hope today's meeting will be more useful, and it is also my first time to present such auditory in journalism. Hopefully it will be useful for all. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Irina, I will now share the slides.
Yes, let's try.
Let's try this. I'll now do full screen. And I hope you see the slides, which are only one slide, yeah?
Yeah, we can
or
see
two.
one. Yeah.
Only one. Okay, excellent. Okay, so this is a title. I hope it's challenging and speaking to what we're going to say. So we try to tell the story of agriculture in Central Asia, building on what data are available, what challenges are there from own perspectives, and then what opportunities this kind of overview, storytelling of agriculture, researching this agriculture can bring. Yeah, and mainly it's basically this collaboration between journalists and researchers. Yeah, this kind of connection between. So this is a building, how our building look like in Halle, if you haven't been there. So I will also show another picture of our institute. So let's go to the next slide. So the objective, the stories, the slides I will be showing, and Abdusame will be showing over the course of this 90 minutes, it's basically to demonstrate your existing data sources, new recent publications, which are published within our research group here at IAMO. And then it will be built in these 4 kind of sections. Yeah, first one will be on, I will try to introduce about IAMO and its Central Asia Research Group, that everyone who is participating at this institute, at our meeting can briefly keep an eye on our institute, on its activities, publications. Maybe you find something interesting for your own stories and reports. Yeah, we show the examples of aggregated data sources focusing on national statistical. So what is there, what is available, and also looking at more bigger data sources like at World Development Indicators, FAO-Stat. And then we talk about micro-level data sources, which might contain something on agriculture in Central Asia. Yeah, and I will stress it many times, there is no micro-level data on agricultural production or agricultural reforms in Central Asia so far. That's one of the challenges for us, for researchers. And then we will build up on IAMO's recent data sets, which will be very soon, over the course of next year, will be publicly available. Maybe some of you will be interested to put your hands on them, but also we'll show some examples of recent publications which might be interesting to cover. Yeah. So what I understand, and probably that will come also stronger during the Q&A sessions between our talks. So what can be done by journalists? Yeah. So what we understand what can be done by journalists as researchers. So we are researchers. What we expect the journalists can do for us, that mainly that you can bridge this distance what us researchers have using all these methods, testing hypotheses, looking at the theories, and then having results which we have to publish in academic language for scientific community primarily, how journalists can help us to transform and connect us to the general public. Yeah. So basically what I expect from such collaborations, that you have your own skills, competences to convert this technical language which we use to more or less accessible stories for general public, but also you could contribute to this through your reports, and much stronger than us, than researchers, to public discourse. Yeah. So for instance, what are the effects of agricultural policies? What is missing in agricultural policies? Yeah. What is additional elements can be added to agricultural policies based on scientific evidence, which we as researchers can provide you. And you can make our research also more socially relevant. And I'm not talking about post-production of research results in journals. Yes, it might be too late. Maybe already in the beginning, when we start developing our hypothesis, placing our research questions, this kind of collaboration, connections, networking with journalists, those who are interested in collaboration, would help me, Abdusame, other researchers at our institute, to sharpen our research question, make them more socially reliable, responsive, and more relevant for the ongoing debates. That we don't overlook some interesting narratives or context which we should take into account. And then you could, by doing this, you can also bring our research inside to policy dialogues. We know that policymakers read you. There is a lot of interesting inputs what journalists currently provide to the upper level, to the level of policymakers. So this is our vision, how we see that, how this connection between researchers and journalists can contribute to to scientists. Yeah. So next one, I think, yes. This another thing about researchers. What can we do as researchers? Yeah, basically what I mentioned, we generate and supply so-called robust, yeah, more or less tested evidence, which is grounded on theories of how world is organized. Yeah, simplification of all interactions which happen, complex interaction which happens in the world. We use the theories to derive hypotheses, we test them, and we have some evidence which we try to build into our own stories in academic level, academic language, which we try to publish in academic journals. But then what we researchers can provide to the journalists through such collaboration, yeah. So we can provide validated findings and context, the one which you probably might overlook if you don't look at more broader data or more micro level data, which is collected using academic methods, yeah. We can also, through collaboration, we can, if we stay in regular, frequent discussions, we can also provide ready-to-use charts, yeah, something which we haven't published. There is a lot of materials we usually produce before we trim everything, narrow everything to a publishable article. We have a lot of byproducts, so-called byproducts, which I think also worth to publish. They can be published, they can build some additional narrative, but unfortunately they're not connect into a nicer picture for journal publications. Yeah, so we, for instance, we can provide some interesting graphs, maps, tables, or infographics even, which can contribute to your stories, to your reports. Yeah, we also can be ready to share our working papers or manuscripts, which are already published, but also maybe some unpublished work, yeah, which is still hasn't been published, but it's already produced some robust results, which can be converted to a nice publication in a media outlet. Yeah, we also provide, because we based our research on data, on theories, we can provide some more credible information in addition to different anecdotal evidence. Yeah, so not only one person's stories, but more grounded empirical insights, but we also can contribute to your narratives, to your reportage, to your stories with additional literature, maybe on Central Asia, or maybe broader to the global scope, because in our publications, we usually do literature review. We consume a lot of information on the topic also from other parts of the world, yeah. We can clarify the concepts, for instance, if in this collaboration, we can contribute to clarifying certain complex meanings, complex ideas like water governance, or also can clarify statistical indicators, what they actually show, yeah, what this actual statistical indicator, what is behind the statistical indicator. Yeah, and then we can provide some additional contextual informations, yeah, which can help you to avoid this misinterpretation of statistics, yeah, aggregated statistics, or you could also misinterpret some anecdotal evidence collect, yeah. So this is how we see this collaboration, benefits from both sides, yeah, so-called mutual collaboration. But where we're actually coming from, so this is bird-eye view of our institute. It's this red building based in the Weinberg campus of city Halle, which is second largest or fourth largest city in Saxony-Anhalt in the eastern part of Germany. Our institute was established in 1994, about 30 years ago, to follow the transitions and transformations which start happening in Central and Eastern Europe. Yeah, so just to monitor, observe, and then advise, build theories, also advise policymakers, main actors on the transition transformation in Central Eastern Europe. But then over time, the geographic scope expanded. So right now, The geographic scope covers the countries from Poland until Vietnam, and Central Asia is one of the core focus groups, but there are also research groups on Ukraine, on China, and Eastern European countries. We're quite diverse group where Institute brings about 30 different nationalities on board, and we are currently 130 colleagues who work across 3 departments: agricultural policies, myself, Abdusame, coming from, there is a group also working on Central Asia in agricultural markets, and also a group working on Central Asia in structural change. So in our mission, it's primarily applying research methods, theories to explain and understand the transition and transformations in the transition economies of post-socialist bloc. We also outreach our research findings to general audience, including policymakers, business sector, general public. We also provide the platform for capacity buildings for junior researchers. Here is the head of my colleague, Zafar Kurbanov, who defended this year his PhD at Halle University. So we provide a lot of platform for junior researchers, doctoral researchers to do the research at our institute. What is interesting, what we have probably also would be interesting for journalists from the region, that we have IAMO forum organized each year. Every year we have IAMO forum on different topics. This year it was on rural routes and roads. It's basically on rural well-being and migrations or mobility in transition countries. And I invite also you, I will give you the last slide, more information about forthcoming IAMO forum next year. So if you're interested in some additional evidence, new evidence which has not been published yet, so please try to join our conference here. So what we do in Central Asia, this is just a snapshot. We do research. Yes, this is a picture from Jalalabad in Kyrgyzstan from last year, where we conducted economic experiments with smallholders. We do also provide ground for PhD defenses. It's Abdusame's defense last year. IAMO forum, more wider picture, what we do with a lot of people. And then, of course, academic mobility. We travel to the region to stay, or we invite and support researchers from target countries to stay with us to do joint research. So we have, as I said, Central Asia is one of the central regions which we try to target in our institute. We have, since 2019, quite active interdisciplinary Central Asian research group, which works across 3 academic departments, with about even more, probably 30 researchers, and around 10 are coming from Uzbekistan only. So we have also scholars from Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan we had recently colleagues. And the topics are quite broad. The institute itself focused on agriculture economics. It was developed as agriculture economics. Now there is a growing department also working on sociology, but also geography, land use. So the topics we cover is technology adoption, policies, institutions, risk management, including agriculture insurance, trade, human migration, water land use, and climate change. It's many other more. So we have our website, centralasia.iamo.de. Check it regularly. We hope it will be updated, and we still want to increase its visibility. Few examples from this year activities. We conducted PhD training course on economics at Westminster International University in April this year. To myself, Abdusame. I think you cannot hear me now. Yes, you can hear me. And we also conducted in October this year a conference, again in Westminster International University in Tashkent. The conference was called Navigating Change, and it's about agriculture and rural development in Central Asia. So this is kind of activities were quite active, and we will hopefully have the same next year. Now, if we zoom into the Department of Agriculture Policies, this is a group right now. It's growing. It will grow even more next year. I think 3-4 colleagues will join to this group. And so basically it's quite interdisciplinary, as you said, also from countries, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan we have. And yeah, department led by Professor Thomas Herzfeld. And these are all the researchers. And we are funded. So where the resources come from to study Central Asia? The main research fundings are these 4 organizations: Volkswagen Foundation, which one of the biggest in Germany, who supports science. Then Federal Ministry of Research, Technology and Space. We had several projects funded by the Federal Ministry. German Research Foundation is one of the key where we apply to get advanced grants for conducting research. And then German Academic Exchange Service, which provides scholarship for researchers to join our group, like Salima Bekpolatova or Marlen Tadjiev, they're both funded. And also Aysulum Norboyeva from Uzbekistan. 3 of them are funded by DAD. And also we use German Academic Exchange Service to organize events in Central Asia. So now I would like to to open up the floor for questions. If there are any questions, please, raise them. Irina, what would be the best way that they turn off the microphone or raise their hands if there are questions?
Both options available, but I don't see any questions for now. Maybe it was clear. Yeah, so we can proceed to another part.
Okay, if there are no questions, let's move on. So now we will quickly go through 2 main sources. It's national statistical offices. So where to find the data. The presentations will have also the hyperlink to this website of the national statistical agencies, where you can find the data sets. And then we will also talk about the 3 key, which I and Abdusame have been using for our own research purposes, research projects. It's World Development Indicators of World Bank, FAO-Stat by Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations, and Key Indicators Database of Asian Development Bank. So first, I start with the Statistical Office of Kazakhstan because I find it the most advanced among all Central Asian countries. Others are also quite developed recently. So this hyperlink, if we go, the dataset is available in 3 languages, in Kazakh, Russian, and English. And right now, when I checked the data engine, the search engine, it has the data for most indicators from 2000 starting up to 2024. There are some indicators which are reported annually, yearly, like aggregated total production, total GDP, but there are also monthly, quarterly, monthly twice. So monthly, quarterly, and yearly indicators. So there is some temporal disaggregation which help you to see how the seasonal fluctuation or temporal dynamics within 1 year of certain indicators. So this is quite broad. This is how it looks like at the website of Bureau of National Statistics of the agency. So one can easily select the indicator and then, just a second, and build certain tables which can be exported to Excel for further review and then looking at the patterns, at the trends. The good thing with these data sets, they're aggregated at the province level, oblast level. So it's within a country, regions, and you can find more information for district level data sets. One need to apply most likely to National Statistical Agency, to the Bureau directly, requesting district level disaggregation. The Statistical Agency of Kazakhstan used to publish annually the books in PDF and Word files on different topics, including agriculture and forestry. So one can download these books and look at the higher disaggregation. But mostly all the statistical data, it's either at the national level or disaggregated to the province level. So other countries, this will be the hyperlinks which will be shared by Irina to all participants. So there is new search engine open data called in the National Statistical Committee of Kyrgyzstan. So that's also interesting platform to compile certain data sets, again, at national level or at province level. At the district level, one need to approach the statistical agency, probably to request or to buy such data set. The similar Tajikistan, Agency of Statistics under President of the Republic of Tajikistan has a data portal. One can also generate additional data which can be extracted from the data portal. And then what I liked also on Uzbekistan, there is this new portal called SIAT, at Uzbek's National Committee of Statistics. And that's also quite useful to create tables and also import them for further analysis. And of course, the State Committee on Turkmenistan Statistics. So far, I haven't seen there any data search or data portal. Some statistical yearbooks have been published on the website before, but I think among all these 5 agencies, the Statistical Committee of Turkmenistan is less disclosed on the data. What we did at the IAMO to help to researchers and probably also to journalists, if you're interested in the data, there is data sets which was generated or was created using the official statistical data sources with different teams based in 5 countries of Central Asia, where we compiled all the agricultural and land reforms data sets, from 1992 till 2018. Then the projects ended. That's a strategy of researchers. When the project ends, we have to move on, unfortunately, and very often this kind of data set is not followed, but we really hope there will be some continuation, and then probably another research group might take over this data set and update it with more recent indicators. So the data set is publicly available and easy one-click download, including the code book and the technical reports, which is describing the data set. It's a GESIS platform. It's run by Leibniz Institute for Social Sciences. So the data set, what is additional information which this data set has is on number of farms and the area of farms. So one can easily review how the land use, production structure, but also the farm size and number of farms have been changing in different countries. So this is one big addition of this data set for researchers. And the good thing is that all the data is in one 5-country file. Another big, what we use for our purposes, research purposes, also for presentations, for proposals, or generally trying to understand, to compare Central Asia with other countries, other transition countries, is this food and agricultural data run by FAO. So it's a very large data sets. It's also available in Russian. It's not only in Russian English, it's many languages, but it also is available in Russian. And this is basically, it covers many aspects related to agriculture and to food. And Central Asia, the data starts from 1992, if I'm not mistaken. All other countries are much earlier, from 1960s. So it's on annual basis, so yearly reported, mostly yearly reported data on production, on trade, on imports, on food balances, meaning what is the share of different food categories in nutrition balance, on prices, on input use. For some countries, it's very detailed, like all these categories of data can be collected. In some countries, it's some countries like Turkmenistan, the data are still missing, yeah? So the country probably doesn't report, but on many items, the data is available for all 5 countries. In addition to this, yeah, so FAO dataset doesn't have more detailed data on inflation, on general economic, macroeconomic indicators. So if you want to compare how agriculture performed compared to general economy in each country, I advise to look at the key indicators database of Asian Development Bank. I use it personally for different cross-country studies and reports, so it's quite advanced. There is a lot of interesting variables in the dataset. And then in addition to this, even if you want to go even further, there is this World Development Indicators dataset run by World Bank. Yeah, so it's also like FAO dataset and then key indicators database of Asian Development Bank, and mostly based on officially recognized sources. Many of them are from official statistical agencies, again aggregated at national level, not at province level, national level, and annual, each year, reported each year. Yeah, there are some also national estimates which probably were not reported, and then World Bank basically produces data. So it has additional data which is not reported by statistical agencies, but the kind of limitation of this data set is that it's aggregated at national scale, not at province level. So the challenges as researchers, what we have by using this data, this data is good. So a lot of studies can be done. A lot of additional contextual information can be generated. But the main drawback of this data set's limitation is that it's very often it's aggregated level. At the best, you will have at province level, not at district or at farm level. Yeah, so you lose a lot of information which is within one province, at a district, or even at an individual farm level. Yeah, this data is not reported, is not available. Very often the production categories like vegetables, fodder crops, they're grouped, aggregated also on their own category, like vegetable, yeah? And then you don't know what kind of vegetables. So yeah, you might lose this information, like this cabbage overproduction, which was in Kazakhstan a couple of years ago, or melon overproduction, yeah? So it's basically one category without distinguishing by individual types of crops, yeah? Then the producer types, yeah, they also very often they're aggregated, like in national statistical offices, very classical. Each 5 countries have the 3 categories of agricultural producers: smallholders, yeah, very smallholders. It's basically households, rural households, agricultural households. There is another category which is called private farms. These are the farms which were established after 1990s, yeah, with independence as a new producers. And then there is a third category called agricultural enterprises, large farms or enterprises also run by the state, yeah, publicly owned. So this data is reported mainly in the 3 categories. While we know that also for researchers and for policymakers, the categories of farmers can be much, much broader, yeah? So there could be smallholders which are net buyers of food, or those who are integrated to the market, the smallholders who sell and depend on the products sold at the market, yeah? There are private farms which specialize on livestock, on crop production. There are farms which specialize only on one crop, like on cotton or wheat. Yeah, so there's also quite diverse group of farmers. The same with agriculture at enterprise. It can be agricultural cotton textile clusters. It could be cooperatives. It could be farm union. Yeah, so it's a lot of different forms which are within this agricultural enterprise category. So this disaggregation is missing, unfortunately. And then one thing what we have to cope when you aggregate the data in this very large periods from 1991, up to now. So what is it, 33 years of reporting? You will very soon immediately will face with a problem, with a challenge that the governments changed the district names, or some districts were moved from one region to another, regions were split or merged. It did not happen in all countries, but it's quite things which happened over the years. So this is another challenge, how to make the data coherent across 33 years, because of this change in the administrative units. Very often there is claim, and they're also tested, and I think all these new techniques in artificial intelligence statistics allow us to look at the over-reporting or under-reporting of certain statistical indicators. There is different purposes for doing so, unfortunately, but this is present. It's in some cases, data have been over-reported and then not necessarily realistic. And then what is one of the challenges? So, for instance, during pandemic, when we tried to look at the effect of the pandemic in 2021 by looking at the data of 2021, the data has not been issued or released by the national statistical offices. You have to wait, at least 9 months, September, October, it will be published. Or in certain cases, certain indicators which are published by FAO or by World Development Indicators of World Bank, there is also a delay of 2-3 years. So it's already been gone. So this post-event evaluation is delayed because the data is not available for many years. So what we do to cope with such data deficiencies, what all researchers usually do, and this is one of the things which drives us as researchers to prepare, to organize such data collection, to oversee all our interest into such research projects, is basically to create own micro-level data set. But before I delve into that, I would like to ask if there are any questions from the audience. I would like to open the floor for questions.
Yes, we have a question from
Excellent.
How challenging it is to survey and interact with farmers in Afghanistan in order to collect statistical data and conduct other researches, if you can comment.
Yes, I think it depends. So there is, of course, challenges now. I think it's not the easiest region to intervene, and I would not, probably myself, would not recommend to PhD students to conduct research. Depends on the topic, probably. We had a scholar who went to Afghanistan to do field work, and he said it was easy because he knew the context. He was from that region. So he went to the region where he comes from originally, speaks language, shares the views more or less with population, and could collect data without having any life-threatening events. But I think it's quite difficult right now. I would say it's challenging.
I mean, it's interesting question because sometimes we also receive pitches from journalists who want to actually combine Central Asia and Afghanistan. This is something, it's a kind of trend, I will say, for journalists right now. Does anybody else have questions? You can also raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. No. We're coming for the most interesting part.
So let's move, yes, to the micro level data
Yes, let's continue.
Sorry, what was it? That's my sensitive mouse was. So now I will talk about several micro level datasets which we in our group or colleagues at IAMO have been using or start using. So there is big datasets which is quite, but one thing, none of them is specifically focused on agriculture. There are rural households or individuals living in rural areas being interviewed in these data sets, but they're not necessarily only on agriculture. Yeah? So be careful. As I mentioned, and you will see from probably as a main message of this presentation, there is no kind of long-term agricultural data, micro-level data on agriculture in Central Asia. So, but what we have is good enough. So there is, what I will talk about is listening to the Central Asia initiative run by World Bank, amazing data set, and could be used not only for research, but also for education purposes, but also for probably building stories, reports for public media or for media. There is one in Life in Transition, multiple indicator cluster survey, Life in Kyrgyzstan and Central Asia barometer survey. There is many more, yeah, but I focused on those which were used at the IAMO or planning to use in coming years. So if we go to the World Bank micro data library, so it's a large aggregator of catalog of all data, which micro level data, which has been collected within World Bank activities in different countries. Yeah, it's not only Central Asia. So there is over 6,600 entries, data sets, which can be called and checked. On Central Asia, when you picked all these countries, so there is country economies section where you could select. So for instance, for Kazakhstan, there are 60 different data sets. Yeah, the same for Kyrgyzstan. And then if you compile all the 5 countries, if you select 5 countries, you end up with around 190 different studies, yeah? Country surveys of different years, a lot of years, starting from 1990s, mid of 2000 and more recent. So it's quite, and most data sets is publicly available, it's downloadable. Depending on your skills with processing and managing these data sets, you will find this data useful. Yeah, probably if you don't use data management software, statistical software, then it will be quite challenging. Yeah, in this case, I would suggest to approach or track the data which is reported by World Bank, find the studies which use this database from Google Scholar, for instance, and then try to approach the authors, yeah, to share their insight, research findings. Yeah. But at least this is one of the interesting platforms to start with the understanding what is actually available on micro level data sets on Central Asia. Yeah. More generally, this listening to the citizens or listening to Central Asia studies run by World Bank, which comprises listening to Tajikistan studies. That's how it started with, yeah, initiated in May 2015, about over 10 years ago. They monthly revisit or make phone calls to 1,200 households, basically to monitor their well-being, yeah, life satisfaction, perceptions about the shocks, income sources, spendings, yeah, basically measure their well-being. The data set is available in this catalog, can be easily downloaded. The georeferencing of locations where the interviews were conducted are not available, unfortunately. So this can be only used as a general description of what is what different households experienced over this 10 years. Yeah. After that, after listening to Tajikistan has been running, then World Bank launched this listening to the citizens of Uzbekistan study, which in May 2018, which goes through 1,500 households in each administrative province, in each province, and again, it's monthly. So last year, World Bank launched the second round, so it's a new cohort of households to be monitored monthly. So this is also, we use this currently, this data set to measure the resilience, multidimensional resilience of rural communities and rural households to different shocks. Yeah. Yes. Uzbekistan data of this listening to the citizens of Uzbekistan has a dashboard. Yeah, that is the best site, what I find. Easy click and drag platform where you can see all these dynamics, yeah, these patterns, yeah, like this over months. So answers whether respondents will find this is a good time to start a business in Uzbekistan, yeah, and then you see this monthly fluctuations, yeah, or the opinion of respondents, optimism about whether this current economic situation is good, yeah, so. And it's again this at national level reported, yeah, this dashboard or distinguished by rural and urban, so you can compare these two groups of respondents. So check it. Hyperlink will be on the PowerPoint slide. Click it and try to see whether you find something interesting there. So it's quite updated. Yeah, you see this date on June 2025. Yeah, and these long patterns are quite interesting. Yeah, you see this effect of pandemic when there's this dip of responses. This is a good time to start a business. There's some increasing and then slowly declining. So that might give you some additional context for developing a report. More recently, yes, in October 2020, World Bank started similar studies in Kazakhstan, listening to Kazakhstan, over 2,000 respondents, again on well-being and public opinion, perception. And then later on next year, they started in 2021, December, similar study in Kyrgyzstan, again about perceptions about livelihoods in each administrative province of Kyrgyzstan, about 1,500 households. The data is also publicly available, can be downloaded, but the reporting period is quite short, yeah, it's 4 years, 5 years. Another interesting study which has been used, so-called Life in Transition survey run by European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Also publicly available, very easy to access, one click, including the questionnaire, data documentation. So it's basically the survey which is conducted in these 4 waves, starting from 2006, 2010, 2016, 2022. It includes 4 Central Asian countries, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, but also has wider range of all the transition economies. Yeah, so it's life in transition survey, and one can distinguish the responses between urban and rural residents. Yeah, one interesting study could be done, not only compare within Central Asia, but also maybe compare with other post-Soviet transition economies, certain indicators. Yeah. So to get more information about or impression about this data set, what is possible, I highly recommend to look at this transition report published by EBRD, yeah? Transitions big and small in 2023-2024, and it has this kind of composition. It's based on the data which they collect about happiness, health, and good jobs, yeah, about supply chains and green transitions, labor markets in the green economy, about housing, homes and heating, and then structural reform. So it's very broad topics, and each of them has several interesting topics to explore. I think we will keep using this data set and expand to this. There is, if you're interested, if you want to see, quite recently, colleagues from IAMO published a paper where they put institutional trust and subjective well-being together in post-Soviet countries, yeah, of Central Asia plus Mongolia. And the paper is available. If you find the study interesting, contact the corresponding author of this paper and ask whether they will be interested to provide more insights, yeah, for your own work. Another study which we haven't used, but we know that there are research groups and and universities which are using this data set. I know this from colleagues in Westminster International University. They use this multiple indicator cluster survey, so-called MIX, which are collected by UNICEF of United Nations across, I think 4 countries of Central Asia or 5 countries of Central Asia. And it's also quite broad, very large data set at household and individual level, looking at the status and well-being of children, adolescents, and their families. And that can also provide the split between urban and rural cohort groups for within country comparison or also across country comparison. So it's very interesting data set. Try to look for the authors, research groups who use intensively this data to find additional insights. Finally, the Central Asia Barometer study, which is under paywall. So compared to other data sets like MIX, LIT, or this listening to Central Asia dataset, which are publicly available and can be used and downloaded easily. This dataset is also quite unique, run by Central Asian Barometer team. I think it has been terminated for a while now, and the group is not quite active. But this is also quite interesting dataset because it covers Central Asian countries and on variety of topics which have been used for national reports, but also international reports. So if you have access, if you know, or if you could access this team, talk to them, ask whether they find some interesting insight using this data set. Finally, one country studies which I have to mention because it's could be a quite interesting example or role model which other research group might take over, so-called the Life in Kyrgyzstan study run by researchers, Professor Tilman Brook at University of Humboldt in Berlin, and also Damir Yesenaliyev, who were guiding this study. And it has been conducted over many years now, since 2010. It's also publicly available, but through a repository where one have to fill out the questionnaire, declare that the data won't be shared and will be used only for research or reporting purposes. And the data set also includes the agriculture section. Abdusame used this part of this study for his own dissertation, for his own PhD dissertation, looking at the agricultural module of this question, but it has many other information about general household, social demographic situation, different perceptions, experience of shocks, migration, remittances. So very nice, interesting data set. The good thing that it has been recently again collected this year. So there will be, it's a 7th wave. And one thing, if you're based in Kyrgyzstan or if you're around Bishkek or in Central Asia, follow this conference, its website, the annually organized Life in Kyrgyzstan conference, bringing together many users of the dataset, but not only them, there are also other scholars who present their recent findings, not only on Kyrgyzstan, majority is on Kyrgyzstan, but there is also studies on other countries of Central Asia. So keep an eye on this group, on this website, and see if there is a possibility during the conference. Be there, talk to the scholars. The dataset, as I said, it's these waves from 2010 to 2019. The 6 waves can be downloaded from the Dataverse of ITSA, Institute of Labor Economics, but one need to fill out the questionnaire and then the data set can be downloaded. So this is an example of study which was written by Abdusame, where we use the dataset to contribute to the global debate where the conservation agricultural practices increase or reduce production costs. There is a debate that because of the change in the structure of production cost, conservation agriculture might not be that attractive for for smallholders, yeah, that they may overlook it because it increases the demand of certain technology, production factors, which are quite costly for smallholders. So using this data set, Abdusame could contribute to this global debate and derive certain policy recommendations. And then one bigger overview platform, internationally recognized, it's International Household Survey Network. It's a catalog of many household data sets collected globally, and it's a very useful engine to find out what is available, what kind of data set is available. And probably if you have skills to manage the data, great. You find a lot of stories within the data set, but that can also help you to contact this either those who collect the data or those who use the data set when you know exactly the name of the data set. Yeah. So that's quite broad. So if you only look at the 2019-2025, there is, what is it? 56 household survey data sets, but also one particular survey, which is also could be good example of household micro level data being available for researchers, is a Kyrgyz integrated household survey run by National Statistical Agency. It's not publicly available. It's publicly available, but should be contracted via the agency. Yeah? But initial 16 waves, they're available in this IHSN catalog, yeah, can be accessed. Another big player which has been quite successfully guiding the directions of research in Central Asia, it's International Food Policy Research Institute, yeah, based in Washington, but they're quite active in Tajikistan through USAID projects, and they also collected some interesting data sets which are available through Harvard University Dataverse. Yeah, so the recent study which has been conducted, I think in last year or this year in Tajikistan, is still under embargo. Embargo means it's not for public, for a certain period of time, is not available for public. But I think next year or in 2 years, the data will be again opened up for others. So with this slide, what I want to say, so why we use this, what I already stated, why we decide to invest so much time. So all this micro level data collection, preparation for the survey is quite intensive, time demanding, but also resource demanding, because you need team, you have to travel to the region, pilot your instrument, data collection instruments, translate it to the local language, see whether the translations are understandable, interpretable. Then you have to code them, you have to enter to the data collection platform. Now, instead of paper-based, many of us are moving to the computer-assisted tablet versions or smartphone-based questionnaires. So you have to code this using the software, and then you have to conduct the survey, train your enumerators, conduct survey, enter the data, clean the data. So it's very time-consuming. Yeah? It's 1.5 years from the start till data is collected. But anyway, it's the best way for us to get more information, more evidence for our research, because it allows us to capture all this heterogeneity, what I mentioned, what is missing in official statistical data. Yeah, that's household can be of different compositions. Yeah, they could be, yeah, depending on buying products, food products from the market, or those who produce in surplus and then sell at the market. The farmers could be of different farm size, specialization, livestock farmers or crop producing farmers, and many others. So it allows us to capture all this heterogeneity across farmers. And also, most importantly, it allows us to capture those indicators which are invisible for official statistics, yeah, like perceptions, beliefs, preferences, all these indicators we could convert into the questions. There are also large studies which already tested such questions in different contexts, in other contexts like global value survey. Yeah? So we could adopt this questionnaire to basically to measure those which invisible characteristics of individuals or of farmers. Yeah. We also can, in such micro level data, capture social and institutional factors, yeah, which are not visible in aggregated national statistical data. Yeah? So it's quite a lot of information and dimensions we can generate through converting to micro level data, and that basically explains why we so hardly invest our efforts and resources to have such micro level data sets. So now, before I go to IAMO and give floor to Abdusame, I would like to ask if there are any questions. Let's check again.
Yeah, so if you also have a question, you can raise your hand. Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, thank you so much for sharing all these data sets. Yes, because we also previously, last year in December, had a kind of webinar where journalists can find data about more globally. So, but none of resources that you share actually were mentioned by our speaker, so it's nice to have more opportunities for journalists to use data. I also wanted to ask about this barometer. You mentioned that like people, researchers can ask information for report or for research, but what about publications? They cannot use it.
Of course, this is the idea. Yeah,
So
this
they
will
can.
be covered by Abdusame. So right now it's dataset, and Abdusame's side we will be talking two of us together. That will be about publications. Yes, the best way, and this is where we see the most productive collaboration to start with, is based on, you know, reinterpreting the work which has been already published. Yeah. So we published it for academic purposes, academic audience, but then these important messages which are socially relevant might not reach the audience. Yeah? So for this, we need, of course, the support of journalists, and we are also ready to support, to talk, to get into interview, or even helping with additional visualization of information, yeah, for the articles. Yes, of course, the publications are quite important. If you wanna, so you started the question mentioning the Central Asia Barometer. When I checked the website, it stated that since I think last year or 2 years, the team is not active, but they will respond depending on their time to the questions. So if I think we haven't used the data set itself, but the structure is quite interesting. And I know that some research group have been using this barometer study. So we might, I think, I thought it's worth mentioning this in as one of the data source.
Okay, I don't see anything in the chat, so we can continue with Abdusame.
Yes, Abdusame, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Nodir, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So thanks, Nodir. It is my pleasure to present about IAMO dataset. As Nodir mentioned, that in statistical data there's a challenging because in statistical data is usually aggregated province level or mainly province level, and today I will present mainly two types of data that conducted in the framework of 3 projects, and also farm level data. Firstly, I will tell about 2 waves data that conducted in the framework of 2 projects, which is AgriChange and Sociodica project. So AgriChange project is mainly focusing on institutional change and comparative analysis of 2 centralizing countries, which is mainly Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And following AgriChange project, the Sociodica project was organized in 2018, I think, and the Sociodica is mainly focusing on farm restructuring, labor relations, and water governance, and adoption of innovations, sustainable agriculture practices. So, and what is the main goal of the survey? So is the framework of Exchange Project 2019, the first wave of data was collected, and main goal of the survey was to identify barriers that related to agriculture growth in Central Asia, and secondly, to better understand what kind of factors that influence farmers' adoption decision of sustainable agriculture practices such as crop rotation or biological methods or some high-value technologies such as laser leveling and drip irrigation. And third main goal is to explore the factors influence farmers' decision to intensify agriculture production. Yeah, and both projects are focusing on irrigated agriculture of Central Asia and funded by Volkswagen Stiftung. Yes, and detailed information you can find by IAMO there. And by the way, Nodir, if I during my presentation, if I skip some important information, you can
Yes.
interrupt me and you can add additional information. Yeah.
Okay. Super.
And
Yes.
okay, thank you. And next, so what is the study area of this two datasets? So first wave was, as I told, collected in 2019, and second wave after series 3 years was collected in the framework of statistical project in 2022. So both datasets collected in face-to-face with individual farmers in March and April months. Yeah. And we focus on two Central Asian countries, mainly Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. And from each country, we select one province, Samarkand province from Uzbekistan and Turkestan province from from Kazakhstan. And for each province, 3 districts are selected based on their crop production. So, for example, from Samarkand province, Payark, Pastorgom, and Jomboy districts are selected because Pastorgom and Payark more specialized in cotton production, and in contrast, Jomboy is more specialized horticulture production, such as vegetables and fruits, etc. And similarly, from Kazakhstan, Maktaral districts more specialized in cotton production, and other 2 districts are specialized more horticulture production. Yeah. In the table, you can see the area and population of those 3 districts for each country. So as you see that land area is higher for Kazakhstan, but population is higher for districts in Uzbekistan. Yeah, this is a study area. So, and next slide. So the questionnaire is consists of following units. So during the question, we mainly ask farm characteristics such as their age, education, their experience, training, or of farm workers, etc. And also we interested farm profile, their farm site, and labor or contract if they participate in contract farming, etc. And behavior factors such as farmer risk and time preferences, farmer their trust to courts or tenure security, and in addition, we also asked farmers about their land quality and also how the irrigation and irrigation infrastructure, etc. And finally, we also asked farmers production and assets such as what kind of input they use for crop production and what kind of how their output. Yeah, but and
So
this
if I may
slide.
add, Abdusame here.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
this is some like behavioral traits model, yeah, or farm profile. This is a data information which you don't see in national statistical data, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what we needed for our study because we selected these two different contrasting countries with contrasting institutions in agriculture, so governance models in agriculture. So both countries took different trajectories in agricultural reforms. And when we started the survey in 2019, the gap was still bigger. Now I think it's narrowing, but this was the explanation why we took this two-country approach and how this questionnaire was designed, that it allows us to capture those characteristics of farmers which are not measured by any sources. Yeah.
Statistics, yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you, Nodir. And this 5 units, in both ways, we asked those farm characteristics and other farm profile, other variables. But in addition, in the second web in 2022 survey, for both countries, we also ask if farmers use smartphones or they participate social networks, social media groups. Yeah. And also for farmers from Uzbekistan, we asked about participation in cluster, cotton cluster, because maybe if participants from Uzbekistan, they may know after 2018, there's a reform that's about cluster, organizing clusters. Therefore, we decided to ask in the second part only for Uzbekistan farmers about cotton textile cluster. Yes. And yeah, next.
Now with the studies, yes.
Yeah.
What from this data set?
Yeah. Thank you. So based on those 2 data sets, now I will shift to explain about the outcomes of based on those 2 data sets. Yeah, outcomes is there are many outcomes, but in this presentation, we're mainly focusing on publication for peer-reviewed journals. Yeah, we have also some policy briefs or discussion papers, but the peer-reviewed journals is we focus on the only peer-reviewed journals in today's presentation. So this paper is about participation in formal cooperation in water management and how this participation influences farmers' adoption of sustainable practice in case of Uzbekistan. And we focus on mainly Uzbekistan, and we use both 2 waves of the data sets. Yeah. And what is informal cooperation? Maybe you may be familiar in Central Asia, the Hashar is popular kind of type of informal cooperation. In Kazakh language, it will be, I think, Asar. Yeah, it's Asar, Hashar. It's and the main idea is how this participation, such informal cooperation in Hashar or Asar, influence farmers' adoption of sustainable agriculture practices. So the findings and our conclusion and put simply our conclusion from this study is strengthening community-based water management and traditional forms of cooperation like Hashar can be a cost-effective alternative to input subsidies for promoting sustainable farming. So which means participation in Hashar is increase farmers' decision to adopt sustainable agriculture practices. And so in this figure is taken from this paper, and you can see that what kind of sustainable agriculture practices farmers use in Central Asia, in Uzbekistan mainly. So we analyze 4 practices, which is low value practices, which is crop rotation, biological methods for pest control, low tillage, and intercropping. And the results show that in farmers in Uzbekistan mainly use 2 practices, which is crop rotation and biological methods for pest control, comparing to other 2 practices. Yeah. And yes, this is main findings of this paper. And another interesting publication that published by our colleague Zafar and also Nodir Djanibekov, one of the co-authors, and I think Professor Thomas Herschel is also co-author. And the authors also use datasets, 4th wave of dataset, which was collected in 2019 in the framework of AgriChange project. So most interesting in this paper is, as you see, maybe for journalists, maybe interesting this figure, which is farmers' perceptions of land use rights in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. So you can see that different perceptions between Kazakh farmers in Kazakhstan and farmers in Uzbekistan. For example, land use rights is higher, I think. Blue one is Kazakhstan, I think. Yeah, blue is Kazakhstan.
Yes.
And or management rights such as farm rights or transfer rights, all rights is higher for Kazakhstan compared to Uzbekistan. Especially transfer rights is very low in Uzbekistan, according to the data of 2019, transfer rights, which means if farmers can lend their land to other people, if farmers can rent out or rent inland use rights. So it is this rights is very high for Kazakh farmers in Kazakhstan comparing to the Uzbekistan, which may be more interesting kind of results. So what is the conclusion of this paper is farmers in Uzbekistan invest more in machine when they perceive stronger management rights, but invest less when they feel they are more freedom over use and transfer of land. Yeah, this is the main conclusion. And Nodir, maybe you are one of the co-author this paper. If you have additional information, you may share, but otherwise I will continue.
Yes, there is also additional message that only land rights reforms are not sufficient. They should be done in a bundle, so different rights should be taken into account, not like only land tenure security, so management rights, how farmers can manage their land, like by choosing crops or types of inputs, how much input, when to apply matters a lot for farmers' decision to invest into machinery. So when the government decide, okay, we want to modernize our agriculture, we want to incentivize our producers, what they usually do, they provide a lot of subsidies. So subsidies are draining our public budget, we know this. So in addition, probably this kind of reforms and land rights, what farmers actually can do in their decision-making autonomy, would be also quite supportive of these reforms. So we published the summary of this paper in a language which we hope will be understandable in a policy brief in our partner organization, Center for Policy Research and Outreach, based at Westminster International University. So that's kind of outreach which we managed to do so far.
And Russian language is available also, Russian or
no Russian.
Only English language. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Nodir. And so another outcome is about farmers' participation in social groups and their effect on their performance in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. As I told before, that in the second wave, we had in 2022, we had questions for our questionnaire if farmers use smartphones, and if they use smartphones, how whether they participate social media groups, such kind of. And
maybe I provide the context, Abdusame, to this paper, why what made us interested in this, to study this issue. So if you allow, so what we observed when we went in 2018 or 2019 to Kazakhstan and also in Uzbekistan, that farmers were not that satisfied with agricultural extension services, so information about how to produce, what to produce, where to sell, how to get certification. It's provided, there is government agencies working on this, but they say it's not enough. It's not always what they actually want. So as a result, there is evidence that farmers build their own social groups in this messenger apps, like in WhatsApp or more in Telegram, where they share different information. So they stay in touch to help each other in farm business. So that was our, there is something what farmers are now self-organizing, could be interesting to test, whether it's actually contributes to their productivity, to their performance, to their farm business. Yes, Abdusame, you may continue now.
Okay, thank you very much, because your the question was from your idea, and so in the figure you can see that during the questionnaire we asked farmers what kind of app they use if the farmers have smartphones. So as you see in
for
Telegram
farm business,
Messenger,
for farm business, yes.
For farm business, and Telegram Messenger is highly used by Uzbek farmers, in contrast in WhatsApp Messenger highly used by Kazakh farmers. So the Telegram Messenger is very popular in Uzbekistan, and what the messenger is popular in Kazakhstan, as you said that, but also Uzbek farmers and also Kazakh farmers use other messengers, other apps, but this too is common. But the idea is so they have some apps, messenger apps, whether they use some social media groups related to agriculture business, agriculture farm business, and how if they participate in these social groups, and how the effect of their performance, their outcome. The main research question about this, and in this paper, you can find the answer of this question. So what is our finding that so if farmers use smartphone messengers and if the farmers participate in social groups and their outcome will be also higher, such as the outcome here is in our case is a cotton yield and cotton revenue in for both countries in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. This is our main findings. And based on this paper, you can also find some, we also publish policy briefs. And
One finding for Uzbekistan, what contradicts to Kazakhstan because of this strict regulation of cotton production markets, our model shows that the yield increase, which is possible due to participation in social media groups for Uzbek farmers, is not necessarily translated to the higher revenues. So they don't get they cannot increase their revenues, but only yields. While in Kazakhstan, farmers can increase both yield and cotton yields and cotton revenues by participation in the media, in the smartphone messengers. And it's also published as a policy brief in 2 languages, in I think it's in Russian and in English.
Yes. And another
maybe this one I take over or briefly.
Because you're a co-author and not a co-author, and
so this was developed in cooperation with colleagues at Westminster International University and at the International Food Policy Research Institute, IFPRI. So as you know, this datasets was also one nice thing that it covers 2 years, and in between 2019 and 2022, so 2018, 2025, in between there was 2 big events, like COVID pandemic and the Russian invasion in Ukraine. So these shocks basically translated to the higher input prices in between this service. This is bad news for farmers. They makes things costly, production costly, and then it also makes them less productive, less efficient, sorry. So what we tested, led by colleague at IFPRI, that we look at the training diversity, whether participating in different versions of trainings, and in the farmers' perception about their decision-making autonomy, so rights to use land in a way they want. It's basically good news. So when the farmers participate in diverse trainings and have higher perception about their decision-making autonomy, these farmers were more resilient during these shocks. These 2 figures show it's more complicated, but green line is those who have high autonomy and trainings, and those which are non-green lines, these are those who reported less autonomy and less diverse trainings. So you see that green lines are less, or they stay stable or even increase when the shock happened between these 2 years, 2018. So this good news also for policymakers that, when farmers are trained better in diverse topics and also have better decision-making autonomy, they can navigate and stay more efficient when such shocks which increase input prices happen. So that agriculture can sustain their efficiency. When governments and actors provide more platforms or facilitate this diversity in training and in decision-making autonomy.
And also policy brief also available,
Yes, it was also published as a policy brief. Yes.
And finally, and one of the interesting peer-reviewed journal paper is about adoption of cotton combine and this technical efficiency in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. So, after I think 2017, the Uzbekistan actually reformed about cotton picking instead of hand labor, and shifting cotton combine is one of the priority reform, I think, in Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we use in this study only 2019 data and in the first wave, and at that time no any farmers have cotton combine in Uzbekistan, yeah. But in Kazakhstan, more than 50% of farmers use cotton combine, yeah. And based on this data, we try to explain how the effect of the adoption of cotton combine for their revenue. And for example, if you see this table, so Kazakh farmers from Kazakhstan use cotton combine, and their average revenue also is higher per hectare, yeah, compared to Uzbekistan. And our results show that, so if farmers use cotton combine, their efficiency will be higher, yeah. In centralizer, one of the key findings of this paper, and based on this paper, we also publish it policy brief, and it is also available. But I don't remember it. It's also only English language, yeah, I think.
Only in English, yes.
Only in English language. It is. So the paper was prepared with our colleague from Westminster University, Muhammad Bilal, and also Nodir Djanibekov is one of the co-authors, yeah.
So one of the things, what this background of this paper was that, yeah, mechanization. I mean, the cotton sector has its own kind of story or reputation, yeah, of labor use, of forced labor use. And one of the things what has been done through reforms is to mechanize the cotton harvesting through picking to more machinery. And one concern was, and there is also other studies like Richard Pomfret who studied that there is certain beliefs among agricultural producers, cotton growers, that mechanized cotton harvesting makes the cotton production inefficient. Yeah, there is a lot of losses and quality of cotton. And when we compare the data which we collected for Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, we see no, it's actually, yeah, using this econometric methods that the cotton harvest actually improves farm efficiency. Yeah? So harvesting cotton by machinery, by combines, improves farm efficiency. So there's nothing to worry. At least it's our data sets, which is based on 256 farmers in Samarkand, cotton growers, and 255 cotton growers in Turkestan, in Maktaral district of Turkestan province. Yeah? So it's very limited, but at least it's contribute to this knowledge that, well, don't be afraid of using cotton combines. Yeah, but of course there is also kind of unforeseen consequences. Like if we mechanize everything, there is also concerns that, well, it might require attention because the mechanization displaced people. You know, people who were actively, voluntarily participating in cotton harvesting, especially women. Yeah, so think what in addition can be done along this mechanization, cotton harvest mechanization process. Yeah. So that's it. I think.
Yeah, this is this was a fourth type of data sets. It was, and now I will explain about the second type of data, which was collected in the framework of Usfaran Barometer project. It is a national representative data, but collected only farmers from Uzbekistan and from 4 regions, yeah, 4 regions of Uzbekistan. And in the survey, we collected 4 provinces. For example, from Fergana Valley, Andijan province is selected, from Zarafshan Valley, Samarkand province was selected, and from Surkhan Valley, Kashkadarya province, and from Khorazm Valley, Khorazm province selected. And each regions average 300 farmers will participate in the survey, and totally 1,225 farm managers were surveyed. And the survey was collected by Center for Economic Research and Reforms in Uzbekistan, their company, and in the framework of Usfahan Parameter Project, and by cooperating Westminster International University in Tashkent and Policy Research Outreach CPRO organization in Uzbekistan, yeah.
Yeah.
And the dataset also consists of this almost the same with the previous agri-change and societal data, but additionally of this, we also add farming methods, so which also is difficult to find from national statistics data, and what kind of methods used to produce agricultural crops. For example, what kind of types of seeds or what types of fertilizers they use, especially, and also what kind of methods they use to control pests, disease, and also weeds, and also how they manage agricultural waste. Maybe farmers may use crop residue retention, etc. And this is the additional question. But currently, the question was collected last year in November. But currently, we have no any publications, but we are working on this, and hopefully soon you will be available some publications based on this data, on the outcomes here. Yeah, this is the end of the slide. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, for your attention. Yeah.
One more point to mention: this is IAMO Forum in 17th, 19th June in Halle. Yeah, this cultivating methodological fields, harvesting real-world solutions, advanced methods in agriculture economics. If you can travel, if you're around, drop by. There will be interesting topics, and I'm sure there will be something on Central Asia. So definitely will be on many transition economies, which are within the research area of IAMO, but there will be representation also on Central Asia. Yeah, with Usfahan barometer, maybe I add. So there is now this new idea what we want to do with the data. Now we collect it, we're studying, but we want to continue with repeatedly collecting this data. So we are now thinking of establishing a partnership platform or network of organizations which would be interested in such kind of data. Right now it's used by Westminster for its own educational qualification works. Also CER is using it for advising government and also for planning their actions. And at IAMO we're quite actively using it for all new research ideas. So that's it. Irina, now.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, we have a question in the chat. I don't know, did you already answer it, but which program or application do you use to create map visualizations in your project?
Yeah, Camila is answered. Yeah, thank you for your question, Camila. Yeah, for map, for other figures, I use Stata program, but for map, actually, no, I think it is another map.
This one.
This one, yeah. This one is by it was done by our colleague from Atabek. He is very experienced.
But this is he used QGIS.
QGIS. QGIS program he used. Yeah, it's not prepared by me, but by our colleague. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
You're
you.
welcome. Yeah.
I mean, I just wanted to say that within our project, I didn't tell it at the beginning. We do this webinar within Communicating Climate Change in Central Asia project that we do together with MediaNet. And we have some capacity financial to support journalists to go to different conferences, but unfortunately not to you. So this is the case. But I mean, you mentioned this Life in Kyrgyzstan project at their conference, so maybe this is also can be a case where we can support, and for sure we have money for next 2 years. So if you listen us and you are a communicator or journalist from Central Asia, please use this opportunity. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can also raise your hand again or write in the chat. We can wait a little bit. Yeah, people say you thank you again for the webinar.
Yes.
I mean, I also have this kind of question. Nodir mentioned at the beginning that there is this gap between data that is usually accepted from 2022, for example, from 2022, but sometimes even later, earlier. Do you see any big changes after 2022, for example, or the journalists need actually to receive this data from 2023, 2024 in order to do some like research or understand what's going on? How do you see it from your perspective?
Depending on the topic, I think on the topic which they want to cover, there are certain topics which are very dynamic. Yeah, whatever is collected last year or 2 years could be outdated to build a story. It could be good for testing a theory to contribute to the global knowledge, but to speak to audience, it could be too late. Yeah, could be too outdated. Yeah, the life goes on, so to say. Yeah. So for journalists, I think it's what they look. It's more actual data. But to build the context, to build the bigger picture, background, I think such previous years still matter. Yeah, they really can guide you through the provide more contextual information when the current data is missing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also have a question regarding policy briefs you mentioned in one of your publication. Did you receive any feedback from people who actually need to read this policy brief?
I think I received a couple of emails.
Okay.
But it's difficult. We still have to improve our outreach and communication skills. Yeah. People don't read. I think it's even so. That's why I think this kind of cooperation or networking with journalists is important. Yeah. We need your presence, and not only at the events or after the paper has been published, but also continuous when the research is being designed, yeah, to stay more in touch, how to make it more socially relevant. But we got some feedback. I received feedback from public organizations, from international donors who read this paper and reacted. Yeah, so there is feedback.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah, I mean, that's what our project actually want to do. Yeah, like really communicate this topic and make opportunity for journalists to understand what experts do and researchers and how to, yeah, like make sure that your work is also visible for people with whom you work. Yeah. Okay, so I don't see any questions in the chat, and I think that we can finish. Yeah, we 10 minutes later a little bit, but still people with us. Yeah, thank you so much, Nodir, Abdusame. I hope that we will be definitely in touch and yeah, think about future cooperations. Of course, I will share a presentation with our network and yeah, let's see yeah, what can be next steps for us.
Could I just ask a question? Adrian Neal here.
Hi, Adrian. Nice to hear your voice.
Hi, Nodir. How are you doing?
Yes, nice.
Firstly, thank you for sharing everything. It was very, very useful. On the policy briefs issue, I just wonder how much planning when you're outlining the research, if policy dialogue and policy exchange is key outcomes from any research, and I believe it should be, then how much really is planned in terms of a communication strategy at the beginning? Because you mentioned, as we've just talked about, many policy briefs are prepared, but I just heard, for example, one of them just published in English. So how relevant and helpful that could be in a region challenged by language, particularly decision makers. But in my experience, policy briefs are not one size fits all, because you have, for example, very different concerns from the ministries of finance versus agriculture versus some of the key other institutions responsible for climate change and many others. And I think that too often I see these research briefs that are policy briefs, but they're generic in their message, and mostly not very user-friendly for ministers that often struggle to understand some of these technical issues that are behind the research, the outcomes, and the key messages that could be interpreted and actually translated into policy action. And my observation and request would be, as these studies are planned, and indeed some of the policy briefs that you have, and I guess that's part of the engagement you're doing today, is how to really take all of this useful research into policy action briefs that are targeted to decision makers in specific ministries, with tailored messages. I think it probably needs more resources behind it, because so much of your good work is then actually not reaching those that really need to take account and use it. And of course, the public perceptions that could be built up to create lobbies for change. And they're all different target groups for different types of needs to hear different messages. But it just feels like so much good information that you've shared today, and so much more that I've heard of before. As an agricultural economist, I can engage in it, understand it, but I'm constantly thinking, what are the policy messages we need to get to whom? And I would love to see more focus upon that going forward, because I can already see in some of the work that we're doing in CAREC, I should say that I'm working on an ADB project at the moment, which is focused on a regional development plan, which would engage with different development partners. And yeah, we're struggling with certain key messages and where to direct them. We know that the capacities of so many of the institutions that we work with are weak, in many cases lacking economics within the decision-making tree. And so we have to put it in very layman terms, dare I say almost patronizing terms sometimes, that distill these things into key policy messages and action proposals and policy options. But more importantly, it can't be passive. I think it has to be active engagement. I think publishing a brief is great, but that's the first step. How to actually engage in the policy dialogue using that beyond a conference which rounds up the findings and presents them. Most decision makers are not going to openly engage in such forums. They would like more small meetings where they can ask stupid questions and have things explained in terms that they can comprehend and use. So my feeling is that we need to do a lot more together to build that policy brief tailoring and message distribution. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Adrian. This is very nice addition to this actual presentation, and I fully agree. We have to do a lot, and researchers have to, especially I think in Central Asia, dynamic environment, we need to put a lot of efforts and planning for this communication strategy. Probably people who are not necessarily researchers, but work on outreach and communication. And that's where we see that the role of network to network with journalists, with local journalists who could help. But also with, I don't know, we need people like you who come with Western perspective, but know how this organization work. We need how policymakers work. We need to team up with such people. And but sometimes I feel that the research universe going separately, and that's
and that's the problem. It's like, you're talking to the initiated and those that can understand and interpret, and it's that missing link that we're frustrated by, because so many of those findings, like decision-making autonomy in Uzbekistan, massive issue related to land tenure, and so many other issues besides in terms of state control and direction of cropping choices and agricultural systems. And the research is sitting there screaming at them to take their hands off the sector and create more autonomy. And somehow we're failing to achieve that. And that's comes down in the end to a handful of individuals around key institutions that could be better targeted. And maybe there needs to be within the teams that are planned, not just researchers, but outreach specialists, actually not just networked, but structured within that framework from the beginning. Because of course, as you said earlier, that the research could actually be better tailored then to meet those objectives that we're trying to achieve with decision makers and wider public awareness raising.
Yes, thank you very much, Adrian. This is a very important message you delivered, and I think it's a very nice conclusion for this session, for this event.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian.
Yeah, thank you so much for your comment. Yes. Yeah, again, thank you so much, everyone, for your participation. And yeah, we can finish for now.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Everybody attending. Bye.
Thank you.